Hello and thank you for joining us on the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. The race by humanity to stop the deadly coronavirus pandemic is still on. Join the fight by staying indoors and maintaining social distancing. Today on the program, governors agree on 2-week interstate lockdown to contain the spread of coronavirus as Nigeria records 91 new confirmed cases. And later on the show, Chief of Army Staff General Tukur Buratai says victory over Boko Haram is near as Nigerian troops record 2 quick-fire wins over insurgents in Yobe State. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Solomon Ajuziogu. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. After the deadly COVID-19 bettered on our shores on the 27th of February, we let it slip through our vigilance. We now have in our hands community transmission that has led to a spike in the number of confirmed cases. The coronavirus now has presence in 26 states, while the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has warned that it will spread to all the 36 states in due course. To avert escalation of the situation, the state governors are calling for an interstate lockdown. In a communique, the chairman of Nigeria's Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, said only essential services will be allowed during the nationwide lockdown that will last for 14 days. Jide, is this coming late? We started out of 36 states now. We now have confirmed cases in 26 states, 10 more states to go. And according to NCDC, they're saying that in due course, it's going to spread to 36 states.
It's a doomsday prediction, but
It's real.
We know the experts are just telling us the truth. We just have to brace up. The way this thing spreads, you easily believe those governors. I mean, those NCDC officials. Look at the case of Adamawa State, and I think this more than anything must have prompted the governors to take the decision that they took. The Adamawa had no case until a journalist traveled from Kaduna to Adamawa State. He's a journalist who has contacts among foreigners, really Westerners, an international journalist, does stuff for foreign media. And then he came to Adamawa State by road and infected people. Now,
who would have met along the line?
Yes, now the drivers, they've got to look for people who had interacted with him, journalists who had met with him at the press center and other places. In fact, the state government has said now, the state governor said, journalists should not come into
Government House.
Yes, until further notice, because you never can tell who amongst them had interacted with the person who brought the infection to the state.
It's the job of a journalist to go from place to place, from person to person.
But it is also their responsibility to protect themselves. The same way that the minders of the president have decided to protect the president
by telling
against some of the people who are very close to him. So just to avoid a potentially combustible situation. So this is it. Interstate travels are happening. So just cast your mind back to how those guys who came from Cote d'Ivoire, how we tracked them, thanks to the governor of Ogun State and his brother in Osun, who are relating, and then they didn't know they were being tracked. As soon as they got to Osun State, they were surrounded by security agencies. I mean, security operatives who then chaperoned them straight to the place where they were quarantined. If that had not happened, about 27 of them got infected. and they had high viral load, which is significant. Anybody who has high viral load is a capacity to transmit the thing is higher. So it is the molecular testing that determines your viral load. That's why many people prefer it to the random testing. So this is the thing. When I heard that, okay, for 14 days, we are going to have only drivers involved in essential duties will be allowed to move
in and out of
the
states.
question I then asked is, who determines the COVID-19 status of those drivers? If those drivers themselves
Infected.
are infected, maybe they are driving
Trucks.
articulated vehicles, they are bringing petroleum products, they are bringing this, they are bringing fertilizers, because fertilizers and farm input are some of the things, exempted. Who determines whether those ones are even carriers? In some advanced countries of the world, including even the UAE, Dubai, for example, there are drive-in test centers. You sit inside your car, you do not have to come out. There is no human-to-human interface. Yet your status can be determined. So you just drive your car into. So if we had that kind of situation, you see, technology would have helped us a lot. If we have that kind of situation, even those drivers who are now permitted to embark on interstate travel, we will be able to determine their own status, because some of them, I'm confident, will still come and infect people in the states that they are traveling to. So we have to find a way to test as many people as we can.
This is like interstate lockdown on interstate travel for 2 weeks, according to the proposal by these governors. Solomon, we are faced with a catch-22 situation here. A lot of people are saying that, look, like a state like Lagos State, this is like the 3rd week that the Center of Excellence has been on lockdown. People are saying, can we afford to continue this lockdown next week? Or the government will have to relax it? And if they relax it, we know the implication.
There's a big, it's more like you are caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, basically. But sometimes the difference here is the decisions you make and decisions you fail to make, which have their own repercussions. I would have thought, because this means now that all the states of the Federation, including Lagos, Abuja, and Ogun, that had been on previous lockdowns, will continue in another 2 weeks of lockdown. That's what it means. So I would have thought that this would have been a much more significant decision made from the very start, where all the states are involved, so that we will not have to stretch this over a long time. Yesterday, yes, yesterday I spoke about the sustainability, of a continuous lockdown. For how long can you lock down? How long can your economy take this? You will understand that there is not significant production going on. So you lose your balance of trade, you lose your foreign exchange. You can't even save. It's a very big problem because you are going to be spending without producing. So as long as you keep people at home, the question is, you have to give them something to eat, or else you are going to create a little more problems of insecurity, because when people go hungry, there will be civil unrest. So I would have thought that this decision would have come with the initial lockdowns, so that we wouldn't have had to, keep moving it forward, because we thought, okay, if we gave a lockdown for Ogun State, for Lagos State, for Abuja, then maybe we'll be able to contain it. Obviously, it's spreading. We already have 2/3 of Nigeria. We have just 11 states that have not been affected. Kebbi, Imo, Cross River, Bayelsa, Abia has just got into the picture. We have Ebonyi, we have Taraba, we have Yobe. In all, we have 11 of them that have been unaffected. And who says they have not been affected?
Not been tested.
Because of the testing.
They're not tested.
That's the
Kogi, that's why I
problem.
was watching the governor.
Kogi,
laughing when he was
exactly.
posting.
Kogi has not been
They asked
affected.
him, how many persons have you tested?
They haven't tested. You understand? So
when they test,
and when
they will
you
know.
test, now the other problem I have is with the predictive model. At the moment, the Americans are breaking rank with the global predictive model. The model had said that you have probably up to 240,000 Americans that could lose their lives as a result of this. But the Americans have revised that and they are scaling back. Apart from the fact that they have improved their testing capacity, they have jettisoned the predictive model, the model adopted by the WHO, the international CDCs, and all of that. And so we need to begin to look inwards and bring our experts together. It's not enough to just parrot what the WHO and their people are saying. We need to look at, because for us, it's not sustainable to continue to lock down. But that is the cheapest way to keep the thing from spreading. And I thought that the governors...
I need your intervention on this because we are agenda setters and we should be able to lend our voice to governments. What is the best way out? If you go out there now, you see that the lockdown is almost failing in Lagos gradually. And, the number of cars that you see on the road and everything, and people are moving freely right now. So the essence of that lockdown might have been eroded. So what can the government do? And this thing is spreading from the figures where you have, because it's difficult for you to have 100 and something in just a day.
The truth is, this is a novel virus. Those who have come up with the idea of social distancing, the idea of a lockdown, it is because they cannot find a better way to deal with this. And the Chinese, who are the authors of this virus, this was the model that they used. You must stop it expanding rapidly. And one way to stop it is to keep people at home. The Chinese use technology to achieve rapid location of suspected carriers of the virus. And it really, really worked because for everyone moving around, they have your data, they have everything. There's nowhere you go within that target area that they do not know your movement. So they are able to ensure that they track you. One of the big problems we have is that we've not been able to use technology to even locate the people that we suspect had interacted with some of the earliest people who contracted the virus. So that presented a problem. I'm convinced that if we do not do a lockdown, it will get really worse. You look at India, there was a lockdown. During that period, the numbers kept rising. But the truth is, if they didn't do it, it would have been worse. It would have been worse. There is no country that has been in lockdown that we didn't see a rise in the figures during that lockdown. It will rise, get to a point, and then it will begin to taper down. That is what we have seen now with Italy, with Spain. Even America now, the rate of fatality in America is beginning to go down. If they just adopted a laissez-faire approach to it, no lockdown, let everyone go, it will reach a point in which Americans will not be able to control it at all. So, in my view, we made a mistake from the beginning, and it's testament to the unthinking nature of some of our biggest politicians. When the governor of Osun State suggested that this thing should...
Weeks back.
Yes, he said,
lockdown.
Mr. President, I would suggest that we make this go around the country. There was something that he saw. But a lot of us, you know, our attitude to this virus had been largely laissez-faire. Because we just felt, many people didn't even believe. Many people didn't believe. Now, some states were boasting that, oh, they are God's own state, it will not come to them, but we've seen it go to them.
Their state is listed in the Bible.
But we've seen it go to them. God has absolutely no business in this. It is man's handiwork. We are to blame for what has happened. Nobody can bring God into it successfully. You're just wasting time. So the truth is, we lost the opportunity to respond in a wave as a country to deal with this. At the time when Rufai came up with the idea of a curfew and locking the markets and all that, other governors should have done the same thing and let us do it collectively. And a governor suggested it, we still didn't take action. It is now when it now became clear to some governors who are sitting on the fence, who thought, oh, it will never get to them. Now they came together and they are saying, okay, let's stop interstate travel. The truth is, we were even saying, this thing is not in Kano. What is it that they are doing differently in Kano? But we've seen now that it's very much in Kano. We've seen that even Kano is a case that we all have to be worried about. So this is the thing. When you don't do the right thing at the right time, you have an embarrassing situation. That is what we are facing. As we speak, there's no other way. There's no cheaper way. Because your health system is weak, it can't sustain an epidemic of this nature if things degenerate. Because of its high transmissibility. So now, you stay at home, wash your hands, all those protocols that they've told us about, nobody can convince me that they are not working. All that we need to continue to do, government must at this stage come up with palliatives. Look at the end power beneficiaries. This is the time, for some time we've not paid them and they are complaining. This is the time to reach out and begin to pay them because they are among the poor in our society. If they had good jobs, they would not be involved in Empower in the first place. Yes. Then the poor in our society, this is the time to begin to really, yes, so that we can bring the tension down, make them happy to sit at home. Because once they are, they feel hungry and all that, a lot of them will come out and the whole lockdown, the essence of the lockdown will be defeated.
Solomon, we have 6 states leading. Lagos is 504, FCT is 119, Kano is 73 within a short time, Ogun State is 24, Katsina is 21, and Osun is 20. Now, looking at, you can see the densely populated states, and you can see the way it's going. Now, a lot of people are saying that in the next 1 week, this will not be a palatable, there won't be palatable stories from these places.
Well, without wanting to sound like a prophet of doom, the truth of the matter is that the 2 weeks under which the previous 2 weeks and then the additional 2 weeks, what we hoped we were going to achieve was, first of all, stem the tide, what you call the reproduction rate, okay, of the virus. Then increase testing in order to determine those who have been infected.
Let me quickly pick this call from London. Ade is calling us from London. Thank you for joining us, Ade. Hello, Ade.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Journalist Hangout.
How is London today?
Well, we're indoor. I just want to appeal to Journalist Hangout to please plead with the federal government of Nigeria to give a total lockdown to Nigeria at least for 5 or 6 weeks. This thing is serious, very, very serious. I must be frank with you. Right now, our health secretary, which is like head minister in Nigeria, is doing press conference. This distance, we are getting physical distance, will last to the end of the year. So, and they said the social life will be disrupted to the end of the year, which means maybe there is no cinema, club, whatever. It's a serious issue. Please appeal to the federal government. Then, mostly, they should not allow any foreign airport to be closed totally. From Italy, from China, should not come to Nigeria now, please, because this thing is serious. And we don't have good hospital in Nigeria. So I'm very afraid for our people.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you for that information and thank you for that advice.
So we were hoping that under the lockdown, we'll be able to stem, the spread, because we considered the two main points of entry, Lagos and Abuja, since this was primarily an imported virus. And then we thought, okay, within this period, we can then rapidly do the testings, do the contact tracing. I think that seems to have been the slow part. Maybe it's not been aggressive enough, and so we have seen people move. But unfortunately, a lot of people have moved into the communities, because if we had been very aggressive with our contact tracing and with the testing, I do not think we would have been talking about the community transmission thing. So that's where we lost the opportunity. But then looking at it, I would have thought that Kano, particularly, Kano is very close to Kaduna. When Kaduna was taking that decision, Kano should have taken that decision. I think that Kano was one of the states that had been very, very negligent about this. Then secondly, I would want to point out Osun State. One of the things I have noticed about Osun is that it's been stable so far. It's like they have created an effective policing system for themselves. Because when they had that problem, those immigrants, those indigenes that came in from Ivory Coast, it seems they just set the machinery in motion to stem the spread in Osun State. And you have seen that ever since then, Osun has been quite stable. But then we need to look at a situation where we hope that people from other states have not come into Osun in such a way that the community transmissions could be going on. Now they have to step up the testing to ensure that that does not continue. People have moved up and about. It's unfortunate that the governors just thought of this now. Will we also be able, within these 2 weeks that we have agreed to lockdown, will we be able to increase the testing capacity, reduce the reproduction rate of the virus? Will we be able to aggressively do the contact tracing? I'm worried for Adamawa State, for instance, where Jide just talked about the journalists and the people he has come in contact with. So the question now will be the government, the people, the public service of Adamawa State has to create a public awareness program where everyone who knew that he had come in contact with this fellow will certainly have to show up, or else Adamawa will be in a very big trouble.
Okay, Jide, let's look at palliatives now. Improvement, good news all over. We challenge Nigerians, and in the last 2 weeks we've been doing that. We've been challenging individuals, politicians, people with goodwill across the country, and they've been coming out. This morning I sent a video to you. I saw Pastor Tony Rapu of this present house actually going to a slum on the island, and it was, man, the number of people.
Bad slums in the Lake
Bad
area.
slums in the Lake area. So densely populated. I saw it.
That has always been his ministry.
Oh, I saw it.
He's
and
been
I was
doing
like,
this for a very long time. So it's not just because of coronavirus.
Yeah.
This is the ministry that Pastor Tony Rapo had been involved in, helping to rehabilitate miscreants, taking them off the street.
Well, this particular one, just
exactly.
relief material.
This is a much more expensive project because it's very expensive to feed people. We have to tell ourselves
that number of people.
Yes, and you bring a big truck loaded with noodles. On the average, it's about between 1,700 to 2,000. 2,000 naira for one carton, and that was a big lorry, and the crowd was huge, and he continued to give them one carton per person. You see, we started talking about the need to do this, and then a young man, Captain Jamil MD Abubakar, very early in the day,
The son of former Inspector General of Police.
Yes, MD Abubakar, the Zamfara man. very early in the day,
Yeah.
he began to do this. He's not interested in politics. He's just a young man with a heart of gold, someone who loves God. And he felt this is the right thing to do. He started it, he continued, and then we began to talk about it. We have seen noticeable improvement. We've got to give those politicians, the lawmakers, the
We challenge them.
chairmen of local government and all that. We must give them kudos because they have responded effectively. In fact, Jibola Bashir, Senator
Central.
Jibola Bashir, you
Yes.
know, the
Central.
activist who found himself in government. I told him of the case of some blind students in Unilag. You know, there are between 47 to 50 of them. They are starving as we speak. Because even when everything was normal, they needed people to take them
them
from
around.
place to place. Now, even those of us who are not visually impaired, we know how difficult it is to feed.
To feed.
Not to talk of these guys now, who had always depended on people. They don't have a job that they do. So I told him, I said, see, in Unilag, your former school or your alma mater, there are some blind students that need to be assisted. And he said, yes, I'm going to speak with Professor Hastrop, who had been like their minder, and we will do something. Before now, he had done a lot of empowerment. In fact, he did jingles just for people to know the danger in not adhering to the protocols that had been laid out. And Bashir had also been giving people money, giving people food items. You know, we challenge them. So from Oshun, we are beginning to see improvement in the response of politicians to all that we have said.
After Remi Omowai did his
Yes.
own
Then
comedy, so a lot of people
Alaafin's son,
did it.
Hakim, Alaafin's son, was a
Alaafin
member
for
of
you?
the House of Reps.
Okay.
He too has responded effectively, you know, to the clarion call. And in his consistency, is attending to the needs of the hungry, which is what we want. There is no way, if we condemn them that they did not move, it will be unfair of us when we begin to see changes. If we do not say, oh,
So that
these
we
guys
will
are
now come and-
you know? So,
yeah.
and we want more of them to come out. Honorable Dolapo Badru on Lagos Island, he too has done so well with the people. We also have Shina Pella, you know, the one they used to call
Kilox man.
Olowo Idan, you know, from the man
Osun.
from Isheyin.
Well, from Oyo State.
Yes, Isheyin.
The member of House of Representatives.
In Oyo State. He too has donated a lot of relief items to his constituents. We want this to continue. In the name of God, we have to get our people, the rich. It's not for politicians alone. Anybody, any man of means who knows that, oh, it has pleased God to make me comfortable, should be able to assist the needy.
And we have to realize that the banks too, they've been a kind of clog in the way of progress
because
for these people.
even
Mr.
people-
President directed you guys to sell a skeleton.
Those skeletons, your banks are shut.
Banks are shut, so people cannot even
There's
access money
there's
to buy
a level
palliatives.
of transaction that you can only do when you walk into a bank. So, and people need this money. The kind of money that we are talking about, you want to bring in maybe from Gombe State or some or the
Trailer load of rice.
producing belt of the north. You want to bring in like 3-4 trailers of rice. Is it with money that you go and cash
From
from
the
the ATM,
ATM? No,
that
no,
you are going
no.
to do that?
Really
So
no.
the banks need to help us because the politicians are now
so.
telling us that, look, we are held back by these banks.
Banks,
So I
yes.
remember said Honorable Lowo say, Babajide, we want to do something, but these banks, beg them for us. So it's important, even if it's 1 or 2 days in the week, they need to open the banks so that our people can take some money that they can use for these palliative measures.
All right. We'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This is Journalist Hangout. We're reaching you live from Television Continental here, and we're still looking at issues surrounding COVID-19. Solomon, one of the greatest challenges we are also facing in this part of the world has been fake news and misinformation. Alhaji Lai Mohammed has been at the vanguard of, fighting the fake news. Now, in the midst of the fight against COVID-19, some people are compounding the problem by peddling fake news and misinformation. Nigeria's first female chartered engineer, Olu Maduka, has denied criticizing Lagos State government on its handling of the coronavirus pandemic. She was quoted to have said people die like flies in her neighborhood, which she described as far from the truth. Let's hear her.
Engineer Mrs. Olu Maduka, a member of the Ijisha Society in Lagos and married to a Deltan, as was circulated in the main message. However, I wish to state emphatically that I did not write the article being circulated widely under my name, as I have not visited any isolation center either on the mainland or anywhere else. I've been home for about 4 weeks, even before the state official lockdown, because at my age, I belong to the high-risk group. So there is no way I would have visited an isolation center, either in the mainland or anywhere else. On the flip side, I would like to say that I have received calls from literally thousands of people since 2 days ago, from family, well-wishers, and friends. However, social media should not be abused, it must be used responsibly. In this light, I would like to commend Governor Sanwo-Olu and his team, including my colleague, his deputy governor, for the good work they are doing, and we sincerely pray that this horrible season will soon be over.
It's just like the late chief of staff. Some people are of the school of thought that he actually died 27th of March for whatever somebody somewhere in the social media planted that story, and by the time the man was buried, he now said it was one of his aides that was buried. And Nigerians, so many youths that are so sold to it that, look, Abba Kyari died 27th of March.
The smartphone, the power of the smartphone in the hands of people, this is one of the flip sides of it. Whereas one of its promises is to be able to increase the availability of information for people to digest, the plurality of media. It also creates an opportunity to hold government accountable, to give people access to information. Unfortunately, it has come with this side of it, the problem, because on your smartphones, you can clone websites, you can design, you can create all of these things and make it look real. Now, that's not the only one. There's a story about Ahmed Musa in the news. Ahmed Musa and his family having tested positive, and that's also a lie. That's also a lie. So, because he has come out to deny that as well. Unfortunately, there are people like this, mischief makers all over the place, who want to seize the opportunity to create problems. And whenever there is crisis of this nature, things like this will always come up. Now, government has a responsibility. It's funny. That is the question. What will they gain?
Enjoying her retirement.
You understand? So
to Malina.
Yes.
So the point is this: government has to probably step up information management. This is key. You may not be able to stop people from spreading the falsehood, but you can deter them. You can trace IP addresses. You can, trace all those things, get them, arrest them, make examples of them.
The Vanguard is always talking about that.
And then,
how determined government
exactly. And then secondly, you don't need a law to do that.
They shouldn't issue threats alone. Because I heard Alhaji Library when he was saying that when we begin to pick you, nobody should complain. Pick them up. We can't have this. These people, they are a threat to the country. All kinds of stories.
Do you know that?
Oh, the president
Do you know
does
the
not
number of
exist.
people? Do you
It's
know
a different person.
I wanted to talk about
from
Jubril.
Sudan, Jubril of Sudan.
That the number of people that still believe today that this president
But you know,
is a clone Jubril from
but
Sudan.
you know that it's not everyone who walks around that has a sanity in place. So, given that situation,
given
that our country is literally bursting at the seams with mad people, you should expect that some people will believe that kind of story.
And
Even
high-profile people,
even if it
believe
has
the
reached,
story,
you know when Dolly the sheep was cloned, the world moved quickly that it should not go beyond that point, because we could see a situation in which human beings will start cloning human beings. A situation, if you had a child, a daughter that you love so much, and she had leukemia, you think you won't want to clone her? Because everything you liked about her, you will remember. And you know that if you clone her, it's like that person has returned. So, but the world more quickly that, no, we are not God. We can't go to this level. Now they want us to believe that the Nigerian president was successfully cloned. I mean, there's limits to madness, for God's sake.
People also need to understand the processes of cloning. It will mean that when the president was born, his parents knew he was going to have that crisis and die at a particular time, maybe when he becomes president. So you would have done that right from when he was born. Because the process of cloning is not something you do today, and then in 2 weeks, the person becomes a full adult.
People will not accept that. Some of them, they will just say, Jubril from Sudan.
You can't force them to not, but you see, we should have laws to deal with such situations. And when such people are arrested, they should be severely dealt with.
Because they were always talking about freedom, they were always talking about,
but they are the ones who abuse freedom.
Freedom comes with responsibility.
The CNN guy, what's his name? Farid Zakaria. He said the internet has put power in every hand, but not a sense of responsibility. So the guy who grabs his phone because he has access to cheap data and begins to use it, that power is there. The internet, the greatest invention since light, you have it, is on your phone. But the sense of responsibility to use it in the right way is not there. So that's what he's saying. And it's difficult for the world to police these people. But it's possible to make examples out of some of them. And we, as a country, we must begin to make examples of some of them.
And the earlier we do that, the better for us, or else in this sort of pandemic where there is lockdown, where it could easily give rise to social unrest, civil unrest. And so the earlier the government steps in and make an example of people who do this sort of things, the better for us. It's important. And then secondly, government also needs to increase the level at which it dishes out information, on all levels.
Let me take Azan. Azan is calling us from Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Azan.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Hazan.
Please, this issue on our hands is a very serious matter.
Which one?
Because we don't know how heavy and how serious this issue of COVID-19 is to us. Some, based on ignorance, they decided to ignore the realities on our hands. Number two, some people are still dancing to the tune of our clergymen and some people within the society to mislead them. And the issue of this misleading about this information, people are very good in doing that. People need to be much more educated about the power of the media. And this issue of power is so for everybody. This power you see on media is so for everybody. So we have to be very careful the way we do with the medium on our hands. We abuse this seriously in Nigeria.
Thank you,
This
Hassan.
issue of this woman, Mrs. Maduka, it was highly receptive all over, even the intellectuals.
Yeah.
Somebody sent it to me. And I sent it back to him by saying that this news is unfounded.
You want to substantiate?
In Nigeria.
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you.
Power is for everybody.
You know, the thing that pained me about that one was there is an attempt to undermine the Lagos state government, undermine the positive steps that Professor Abayome and co are taking. Otherwise, how can you just come up with the story that, people are dying like flies, that the isolation centers were littered with dead bodies, this and that? That's the height of mischief. Yet, this government, every day they will brief Lagosians on the progress. The writer now claimed that, look, that they were lying, that, look, contrary to what they were telling Lagosians, that people were dying like flies. And you picked an innocent woman and attributed it to her. May God forgive these guys.
Finally, on this now, this has been an avenue for food sellers and sellers of essential commodities. Inflation is unbelievable.
Naturally, you say the law of demand and supply, people need to eat. I think that the primary thing that goes on at this moment, apart from the healthcare workers who have to be on the front line, doing the contact tracing, looking for people who are sick and trying to help them out and solve the problem of the spread of the virus and, controlling the disease itself. The other thing is that people are home, they will eat. The amazing thing is that children are not in school, they will be at home, so they will do a lot of eating. Parents are at home, so people will do a lot of eating. And I think that the food production capacity at this time is what we have to look at a mechanism where we can keep food production going, at least the basic thing for people to eat, because at this time you can't be doing capital projects, you can't be investing in things that are not food eating, that are not related to food at all. But naturally, because the foodstuff is not coming in as it would on ordinary days.
Okay, let me quickly take Deji Badimosi. If this is the same Deji. Hello, Deji.
Or a clone.
Yeah, thank you, Ayo.
Is this Deji Badimosi or a clone?
This is Deji Badimosi, not a clone.
Deji, hi.
Yeah, hi.
Okay, go ahead with
Nice
your contribution.
I mean, you guys are doing very well, as always.
Thank you.
I just want to say, just to make a contribution now, and well done to you guys. Babajide, as usual, well done. Solomon Ajuziogo, well done. Now, I want to make a contribution on this issue of proposal by the governors now.
Okay.
Now, the governors are proposing a 14-day lockdown, interstate lockdown. That's what I understand, right? Mm-hmm. Now, as it is now, we have, whether or not the governors want to accept it, there's effectively, as a matter of fact, there's been interstate lockdown now for the past 2 weeks, whether we like it or not, unless the governors are not being truthful. Most states have shut down their borders, preventing people from crossing. But what we have, and the governors made this pronouncement, it's clear. You see that in Delta, you see that in Edo, you see that in some, even in Anambra State, you have policemen at the Niger Bridge there, preventing people from crossing into Delta State and then coming to Lagos. But what we have seen is that these policemen at the various checkpoints still allow people to cross. It's what we see. Yes. If you go to Ojota, you go to Bega, you see see them allowing. So what they do is they collect bribes from people and then allow them to come in. And that's how we have seen, like in the case of Anambra, how COVID-19 got there and how it got to some other places. So if the governors are not looking at that and they're just saying, look, impose a 14 days interstate lockdown, it would not work. It would not work. And then another thing I want to say is this. I think after the 14 days, that's the extension that the president talked about, I think it will be time for the president and probably the PTF now, that's the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, to now begin to think of how they can start opening the economy up gradually. I don't think it's
I don't think it would be wise to extend, as in do the kind of extension we're seeing now, or even a total lockdown after these 14 days. Babajide made it very clear. For instance, the banks are not working. We should have the banks work at this time. We should be able to open some aspects of the economy, especially when you consider the fact that, look, the economy is taking a big hit. Look at what the price of oil is. Now, you want to rely on the non-oil revenue sector to give you money? How does the non-oil revenue sector generate the money now if that non-oil revenue sector is not working? Factories are shut down. So we have to be serious, because at the end of the day, when COVID ends, we would then face the most difficult task, which is to recover. And then we must also understand something. Giving people food, but we should also understand that for quite a number of people, food is not just the problem. Food is not just the problem. The fact is, if we continued like this, and right from day one anyway, I had never supported the idea of these, copying the style of the West, total lockdown, without making adequate provision, which is what is coming to haunt us. We didn't make provision for how to distribute palliatives or how these palliatives would come about, and that's what is haunting us now. So I think the government should start thinking now, before the end of the 14 days, how to begin to reopen the economy gradually, while at the same time we deal with this pandemic. Because, look, we've shut the economy now for close to 4 weeks. We've done only 8,000 tests. Mali is in crisis. Mali is in crisis. A significant part of that country is in crisis. Mali has 293 cases.
Deji,
Guess how
we have
they
to
have
leave it
done?
there.
2,000 plus.
Our own Deji Badimasi, multi-award-winning journalist. Thank you for your analysis there. And we're still talking about inflation rates.
Yes. You see, what triggered the current level of inflation in our country is the rise in food prices, and it began with panic buying. The moment it became clear to people that there will be a lockdown, they embarked on panic buying. Apart from panic buying, there's also the problem of supply hiccups. In a season of lockdown, there are many supplies that you will not get. So the few things that you have, the sellers will want to make as much money on it as possible.
Naturally.
Yes. For example,
Hand sanitizer.
For example, yes, you saw what happened with hand sanitizer, even the mask.
Yes.
For example, what they call polybag, 100 units of it used to be sold at 1,000 naira just last Saturday. Yes. Do you know that by this morning it had gone out to 1,500 for just 100 units? Because they know, they are seeing that supplies are running out. So they want to make as much as possible, make as much money
to
from
pack the
it.
palliatives as well. So
Yes, because people come by just so they can use it to pack the food packs, for the food packs. So this is a problem. So is the supply, a break in the chain of supply that has led to high cost of food items. And food-related inflation is the worst form of inflation, because it can even lead to riots and all that.
Now,
Jafar Nemeri of Sudan was chased away because the price of bread rose. So this is
and don't forget that the national leader of the APC did raise issues about strategy, about mechanism for handling all of this. You know, it seemed the thing, people just breezed over it and felt, oh, he was just talking about, payment. No, what significantly he was talking about was for us to evolve a strategy. One of the things I have seen here is that the strategy,
production of key industries to continue. So when production continues, it means that even supply will become stable. So he suggested that that government can even help some of the companies to pay salaries so that they can keep them going.
Unfortunately, people just took out the naira and kobo part of it.
That's what interests them.
That's what interests them. But I think that these things should be looked at holistically. First and foremost, the strategy just ends here at, okay, lock it down, aggressive testing, contact tracing, let's try to stem it. But I thought that also when you are locking down, as you are locking down, there must also be a strategy to reopen. So even though you are going about maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks, you already have a strategy in place that will talk about how you reopen, whether progressively
let me say to you what happened in Britain. Britain, I think about 15,000 are dead now or more. They then asked, what is the strategy? When at the point when they announced that they were going to extend the lockdown, they then asked them, they asked the British leaders, is there a plan? Of course, the answer was, for now. We do not know when it will end. Because it's difficult in a season of rising fatalities to say, oh, you are going to say people should come back. So they don't even know when exactly they can tell the people of Britain, Great Britain, that, look, this thing will end so time. I think the nature of the disease itself is what has caused all of these problems. The Saudis, they said, don't come for nothing like Ramadan prayers, nothing like the Fitr prayer. Stay inside your home. The world is confused. How do we deal with this matter? Because you don't want to take a step that will even worsen things.
Presently, we are battling with 2.6 million persons infected
it's
around the
rising
world,
every day.
and the fatality rate has been 1.
Americans, I think about 1,700 died yesterday. Again. Yet they are happy that they appear to be.
The thing is actually stemming. The thing is actually, when you look at the distribution, they
are close to 50,000 deaths in America.
The death rate seems to be,
it's
falling.
projected 200,000.
50,000 already. We are very close to 50,000.
So they are already talking about a model where they can look at how long can they shut down. That's the world's biggest economy. But they're already thinking we can't sustain this lockdown the way it is. We have improved our testing, but how do we?
But the governors are complaining that Trump is exaggerating the testing capacity, that the much needed swabs and reagents that they need to keep the tests going, they don't have. So some of the governors are even disagreeing with what Trump is saying, that look, the testing capacity is great, this and that. People are still dying. So what do you do?
And they are going to the polls in November.
Well, my challenge basically is that the virus has epidemics or pandemic of this nature have history. I guess what we just need to do is go back to the templates of how this thing was handled the last time.
It's a completely different kind of virus.
The
world has never seen this type. The rate of transmission is huge.
Solomon Ajuzego, thank you so much for your contribution. And the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade Otitoju. And that's our friend today on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program.